The Sechta Shavous, Daf Lamed Aleph, we're starting from 6 or 7 lines from the bottom. The Simanim are Simeon, Sanigoran. Sanigoran means defense. Bur Amoretz, Gzelas is theft, and Mirma, and deceit. From what do we know if a Dayan is Danadin, and he sees that he didn't do Kalacha? He set up Sak and it wasn't Kalacha. That he should try to protect his words and bring rayas to what his opinion was, even though he knows it was wrong. Like it says in the pasuk, from Sheker, one should distance himself. How do we know that a dayan should not allow an ignorant Talmud to sit before him while trying a case? Because what can happen is that he with talking with him and might distract him and make a mistake. From Dvar Sheki, you should distance yourself. In fact, you want to be who he knows one of his fellow dayanim shu gazlan is a gazlan. V'chein aid so too a aid who knows that his fellow aid together that's testifying with him shu gazlan. How do we know he shouldn't either be dying together with the other dying who's a gazlan, or with the aid, and not testify with the aid that who he knows that his fellow friend who's testifying with him is a gazlan, to say testimony, even though the testimony might be emes, or even if the dayan will pass an emes, but he shouldn't shouldn't judge with them, shouldn't say aidis with them. He should distance himself from Sheker. But when do we know that a dayan who knows that this litigant is lying, but the words that he's saying, if he passes on his words, he comes out winning. He shouldn't say, even since the Eidim are testifying, I'll pass on the based on their testimony. Even though he knows there's something wrong, he feels that there's something fishy. And he's going to say, okay, tell him Eidim. And he'll say, let a chain hang around the necks of the Eidim. They're the ones that are lying, even though he knows for sure that there's shek over here. He should run away because one should distance himself from sheker. Simen, Klosa, 3. Talmud, 3 cases of a student, meaning Klosa, Talmud, 3 cases of a student, Utlas, and 3 cases of Balichoiv, of creditors, a Smartut, Rag, and Shemeo Matim, to hear and clarify. Okay, anyways, talk to your mother. Then we're going to say all these cases. How do we know a Talmud that sits in front of his teacher? And Ani Asher came to be judged, and the Talmud sees and he sees the reverse of the psak of his teacher, and he sees that it's really the Ani should be the one to win, merited, and the Asher should be the one that's chayiv. How do we know that Talmud shouldn't be quiet? Rather, he should tell his Rav, his teacher, his opinion. He should distance himself in shak, even though it will be a busha for his teacher, because first of all, for his teacher who was Mezaka de Asher, it's going to be from Nala Sait and busha. Nevertheless, he has to tell his opinion because he should distance himself from shak. That's why the Talmud must tell the Rav. So the Gemara, the Talmud, what do we know? That a Talmud that sees his teacher being shetei badin is making a mistake in a din. He shouldn't say to himself, I will wait until he finishes the judgment, and then I will demolish his whole psak and rebuild it with my own arguments, so that the whole case should be called on my name. Says the potato says that you have to distance yourself from a lie, meaning the shtika with the Talmud to be great that the din should finish not according to Yesha. That's forbidden. Immediately when he sees something is wrong, he has to he has to say it right away and not wait till the end so he can have this case built on his name. Where do we know? We'll learn out that if the teacher tells his student, you know me, that even if I would be given 100 mayes, I wouldn't tell a lie. I'm telling you a story. Listen, I have $100 by this guy. I only have 1/8. From where do we know that he can't tell this guy, come testify for me? You know I wouldn't be lying. You know for sure I'm saying the truth. So you should come testify for me. You my Talmud, come testify for me. You know me well. He has to distance himself from Sheker. This is mitzad. The reason why he shouldn't come testify is because he has to distance himself from Sheker. It's it's certain that this guy is lying. It's not like a distant from a shaka. He's lying. The Torah says over there, the marker for that Isser is from a different pasuk. One shouldn't testify falsely against his friend. So how could you use that as the marker of Midvar Shaketicha, that he shouldn't come testify for his teacher? A lie. The market for that is Midvar Shaketicha. It's Mitzad Loisana. You're not allowed to testify falsely against your friend. For sure, the rabbi said like this: I have only 1/8. You just come to Bezdin. I'm not asking you to say a word. I'm not asking you to lie. Don't say a word. In this hyphen, no shekel will come out of your mouth. Nevertheless, it's also because it says one should distance himself from shekel. In fact, from where do we know that if one is owed a money from his friend, he shouldn't say, I will claim 200. In order that he'll be made to me mother, and then he'll be chayv to me a shvur. And then I'll be able to be megalgal a different shvur from a different case. He owed me from another case, or I lent my car and he smashed it and he denied it, and then he owed me also $100. So I say $200. He owes me $200, so he'll be made it to 100. So he has to swear made with mikzas, and then we can be megalgal the shvur about my car that he smashed, that he denied. So he says that you're not allowed to do it. One has to distance himself from sheker. How do we know that if one is owed a money, that he shouldn't say Atenu Masayim, I will claim 200. I'm sorry. From where do we know if a friend owes him a money, but the creditor claimed that he owes him 200, he shouldn't say, look, I'll deny everything in Bezdin. He's finding that I owe him 200. I don't want to be a Meidum Mikzas in Bezdin. So what I'm going to do, I'll deny the whole tree in Bezdin, and then I'll be made to him outside of Bezdin. So I won't be chayv a shvur of a Meidum Mikzas. And he won't be able to come to be megal shvur on a different case. Comes the Torah and teaches that one should distance himself from sheker. Why take is he lying? Because he doesn't have the money now, so he needs some time. So, but nevertheless, he cannot do it. He cannot deny the whole thing in order to get out of it, in order that he shouldn't have to become a mechuy b'shvel. So made of mixas. How do we know if three people who are owed a money from one person, okay? So how do we know again? From where do we know that if three creditors are owed money by one guy, if one guy owes $1 million between all three, so the guys make a cheshbon. They say, look, the only way we don't have Eidim, so two of us will be Eidim. that $1 million is owed to one of them, and then they'll split it later. We're not gonna. You're not allowed to make one a baldin and the other two eidim, even though they're saying the truth. Between three, they owed $1 million. So that they should invest and be able to take out the money, the $100 or the $1 million. In our example, they should be able to divide it between each other. Comes the pasuk and tells them one should distance himself from sheker. How do we know if two people came? One is wearing shmatis, and one is wearing a very cheshiv beged, which is basmei money, which is worth 100 money. So we say to the one that's wearing the smartut, levush. I'm sorry, we say to the one that's wearing the cheshiv begadim levush, put on pashta begadim like this person, or clothe the other litigant with the same clothing as you, because by wearing cheshiv begadim, that fogs the other litigant, so he won't be able to articulate his taina, because he feels that they're going to give favoritism to the one that's wearing the cheshiv begadim. That's where we learn out that one has to distance himself from sheker. So that's where we learn out that that we could tell either the one that's wearing the cheshiv beged to wear the simple clothing like the other litigant, or the reverse, or if he wants to wear his cheshiv begadim, to clothe the ani with cheshiv begadim. When they came. The Baladin came before Rav Huna, he would say to them, to those that are wearing begadim cheshuvim, shlufa puzmu kaichu, take off your fancy shoes, and then come into the bezin. So you see that from there, that he wanted that one should be wearing more cheshiv begadim than the other. How do we know that the dain cannot listen to one badin before the other? It says you want to one should distance himself in sheker, because if he listens to one, he might be native to that person, and he's not going to be embarrassed to say sheker because his friend is not there. How do we know a baldin, the litigant himself, is not allowed to like push and say his tainas before he comes before his friend comes? One should distance himself in sheker. He learns out from the pasuk. It says loisisa shema shav. Sisa means that the baldin shouldn't accept the words of a dayan, words of one litigant before the other. And loisas, and we read it loisasi shema shav. That means that one of the litigants. Now we're not talking about the dayan accepting one before the other. Now we're going to talk about the litigant shouldn't push and cause the dayan to listen to one side before the other side. This one is going on the litigant. That is loisasi. Loisisa is going on the dayan, that he shouldn't listen to one before the other. It says in the pasuk, and he did that which is not good amongst the people. It's referring to somebody who comes to Bezdin through the power of attorney. He hires somebody, he gives another person the power of attorney. That's bad for the people. Why? Because power of attorney, it's not his money, so he's going to fight to the end, and he won't even negotiate a penny. Vashenkan, if he himself was there, he would negotiate. It's him. He would be able to negotiate. But when it's somebody on his behalf, it's not his money, so he's not going to. So it's not going to be good. There's not going to be any negotiations to make the din come out better. Shmuel says it's referring to somebody. One shouldn't buy a field and where there are already people fighting. He shouldn't bring himself into a place where there's already a machlekes. Don't bring yourself into such machlekes. And we learned the Mishnah, and it applies only to those who are fit to testify. What are you coming to exclude now? You already excluded Isha, a Gazlan. You excluded everything that you could. So what is the El B'ruyin Lahid coming to exclude? Papa, Lafuki, it's coming to exclude a melech, a king, who's not fit to testify, because a king, it says he doesn't testify, nor he doesn't testify, nor do they testify for him, because it says so is tasim Allah melech. We thought the Chazal Lashon there has to be the fear of the king, and if there has to be the fear of the king upon you, how could it be standing and the Yorim was sitting? It's coming to exclude somebody who plays cards. So dear gambling. So gambling is not mamish gzeila, because gzeila means that, like it says, that means you mamish robbed them. Here he didn't rob him. Here was an asmachta. The reason why he agreed to give away his money, he made a deal. He thought he's going to win in this gambling. He never thought he was going to lose. So he's not really giving it away when he loses wholeheartedly, because in his mind, when he gambled, and he agreed that he's going to give away if he loses, but in his mind, he thought he was going to win for sure. That's called an asmachta. An asmachta loy kanya. But that's only with the Rabbanan. So, but because it's not a real gzeila. The one who says it's excluding Masach B'Kuvia, surely it's excluding this was this is not by a king, because a king is Midaraisa, that you're not allowed to. You have to have the fear of the king upon yourselves. But according to the one that says Melech is referring to a king who's excluded from the din of Shuas Heides, Masach B'Kuvia, but somebody who's a gambler is Chai B'Shuas Heides, because Midaraisa Melech said Chazi. He's right to say this. It's only the Rabbanon who paslu. It's only the Rabbanon who passled him because they say it's machta loy kanya. Sagt the Gemara, we learned in the Hamshach of the Mishnah that if he testified from his own mouth, or others made him testify, he's not chayiv until he denies. So b'fnei bezin, if it's shleib b'fnei bezin is mipi atzmei, but if it's mipi acherim, only if he denies in bezin. That's the words of Rav Meir. Chacham say, whether he swore on his own, whether it was through Achedim, he's not going to be chayiv till he denies in Bezdin. In fact, what are they arguing about? Came to explain Kamid Papa that bedum mina umina bedum umina ve'ik basar Kamid Fagei. Maybe arguing how do we the details of the halacha that you learn out from the Gezeidah Shabbat? Do we learn out everything in the second case from the first case that we're learning out from, or we say no? Don't we not? We only learn out the one din, but not all the character, all the details of the place that is applicable in the makar. We only learn out whatever is similar to whatever is similar to the thing that we're learning out from. If A we're learning out from B, so whatever A is similar to B, that's what we learn out from. But not all the characters of B, all the details of B is going to apply to A. And now the Gemara is going to say it in detail. From a shus pikad, ma pikadin, just like a pikad mujba mipi atzmai chayiv, that if he's mujba on his own, that he's going to be chayiv, because there by shus ha'idus doesn't mention about he himself making a shua. Av shus ha'idus mujba mipi atzmai chayiv. So that's where we learn out somebody who's mujba mipi atzmai is going to be chayiv. Umina. And then by Shvus Pikadin, you could also learn out whatever details are applicable to Pikadin, we should apply to Shvus Bezdin. That's called Mina Mina. Ma Shvus Pikadin Chayba. In Kav Bezdin Bein Shalei Bezdin. Just like when somebody denies a Pikadin, he's going to be Chayiv, whether he denied in Bezdin or outside of Bezdin. So to Shvus Eidus, Bein Bezdin or Bein I'm going to say it's applicable to Sayin Bezdin, Sayin Shaloi Bezdin, if it was Mushba B'Pi Yatzmai. But Rabbanan Sabri, but Rabbanan argue, don't we not? He says no. We'll only learn out the Menegay to Mushba B'Pi Yatzmai that you're going to be Chayiv, but to apply the dinim of Pikadon, whether it's in Sayin denies in Bezdin, Sayin out of Bezdin, that we don't apply to Shvus Eidus. Ma pikad, and this he's going to spell it out. Ma pikad, and do we know we about some meaning? Ma pikad mujbin piyatz mechayev. if he's muzman piyatzma, he's going to be chayiv. Af, so too Shavuos Haydus, muzman piyatzma chayiv. But once we already learned that muzman piyatzma is chayiv from pikadon by Shavuos Haydus, so we're going to say ma muzba. Now we'll go to the case of Shavuos Haydus, and we'll compare it to another case of Shavuos Haydus. Ma muzman piyachedim, just like muzman piyachedim by Shavuos Haydus, bevezdin in shalik bevezdin loy. Only if he denies in bezdin is chayiv. Outside of bezdin is not going to be chayiv. Av muzba mi piyatzma, so too if somebody swears on his own, bevezdin in shalik bevezdin loy. Only if he denies in bezdin, then he's going to be chayiv of Shavuos Haydus. But outside of bezdin, not. Amar Papa said that Talmidei Chachamim that we're explaining the machlekes by if b'gzeira shava mishvus pikadon gamilu rabbanon that we learn out from shvus pikadon that the Chacham learned the ik of this halach shamush mipi atzmai is chayv shvus eidis. He learns that the machlekes is if we learn out from bechlal from shvus pikadon the kuli amaloi pligi. That's what the Papa says. It's not everybody holds you learn out from the Gzeira Shava. There's a machlekes whether you learn out from the Gzeira Shava. And the union of the Kol Yama Loi Pligim, and again, the Dum Mino, everybody agrees that you learn out all, not only do we learn out that if we're learning out A from B, one detail that we're not only learning out that detail, we're learning out all the details that are in B for A. So what's talking the time of the Rabbanan? Alahainu time of the Rabbanan, and only this is the reason of the Chacham the Maisela that they learn out the Ikav this halacha that Hamush bin Piyatzma is Chai b'Shvus Ha'edis. Why do they say it's only in Bezdin? Because they learn out that Hamush bin Piyatzma, they don't learn out from the Gzeira Shava. If they would have learned out from the Gzeira Shava, then we would say he's Chai b'Sai Bezdin Sai Gzeira Shava from Pikadin. Then I would have said he's chayiv side b'fnei bezin side shalei b'fnei bezin. But he's saying we're not learning out mushbim piyatzme from pikadon, rather we're learning out with a kavachema from Shavuos Haydus. The kavachema from a halacha that's stated explicitly by Shavuos Haydus itself. What does it say? Uma mi piyachenim madach mi piyachenim, which is not as severe. Chayiv, he's chayiv b'Shavuos Haydus, he's chayiv for Shavuos Haydus mi piyatzme amushba. Somebody who swears on his own, which is much stronger, more chamer, like kolshkini, for sure he should be chayiv. The aveda of a mushbin piyatza is much more chamer, because he said the shua himself. So that's where we learn out that Shavuos Hatzma is chayiv. Once you learn out mikav chayim, and that you're learning out from mushbin piyachenim, then you cannot learn out more than the nidoin. And what's the nidain? Mi piyachedim. You're learning out mi madach hachedim is chayiv for Shavuos Haydus for sure mi piyatzmei. So if you're learning out mi piyachedim, so you learn out from the kavachim. We say we cannot learn out more than piyachedim. Ma muzmin piyachedim, and just like muzmin piyachedim bevezdin in shalei bevezdin loy. Only if it's in bezdin is going to be chayiv. Shalei bevezdin is not going to be chayiv. Av muzmin piyatzmei. So too, somebody who swears on his own. Only if it's b'fnei bezdin, he's going to be chayiv. Shalei b'fnei bezdin, he's not going to be chayiv. Rabbanan said to Rapapa, "Mi matzam lab b'doim we're not pligi." Could you really say that they're not arguing whether you learn out all the characteristics of the makar for the place that you want to learn out from? Meaning, A is learning out from B. So when you're learning out from B, is there no machlekes whether you learn out all the details of B for A or not? What's not? We learned in the Mishnah, Gabi Pikadon, by the Shavuos HaPikadon. It says somebody who denies that he doesn't have a Pikadon of that person. What does it say? Shavuos HaPikadon naheg by anoshim v'anoshim. It says Shavuos HaPikadon is naheg side by men and women. Side, those are distant from the litigants, and side not. By kasha and puzzle. The din of Shavuos Begadim is sai b'fnei bezin shlei b'fnei bezin. Sai if he denies in bezin, sai outside of bezin. This Shavuos Begadim is going to be chayiv. In nishba min piyatzma, if he swore on his own, or piyachenim, or he's mushman bi piyachenim, ein chayiv at sheyichbe b'bezin. he's not going to be chayiv unless he denies in Bezdin. Says the Gemara, those are the words of Rabbeinu. Chachamim say, Bein mi piatzme, whether he was swore on his own, or Bein, or he was muzman piachim, others made him swear. Kivon shakafa by, since he denied chayiv, he's chayiv even if he denied outside of Bezdin. So you see that there's a machlokes between Rabbeinu and Chachamim by muzman piachim by shvus hapikadim, that according to Rabbeinu he's not going to be chayiv only if he denied in Bezdin. And according to Chachamim, it's chayiv even if he denied outside of Bezdin by shvus hapikadim. So from the words of the Chachamim in this Mishnah, you prove they don't hold of dun mino mino, because they hold that you're going to be chayiv according to Chachamim even if it was outside of Bezdin. And by shvus hapikadim, it's only inside Bezdin. So mino mino, you should have learned out mino mino. So you should have learned that even outside of, only in Bezdin. And the Gemara, Muzman pi achidim, 1 second, Muzman pi achidim is still, we're going to explain now the kasha. Muzman pi achidim v'pikadim, by a case of shvus pikadim, rabbanim the chayiv. How do you know if others made him swear by pikadim, by shvus pikadim? How do the chachamim know that he's chayiv? The pasuk teaches us on chayiv shvus pikadim is not a case of muzman pi achidim. It's talking about that he swore on his own. It says Asher Yishava Alav Lasheka. It's mashma that the guy swore himself. From which the Chacham learn out that even if others made him swear, that he's also going to be chayav. And here you cannot make a kavachema, because here you're starting off with the chamor. The pasuk by Pekatim is talking about the more chamadic one where he himself swore. How do we know even a lighter case where others made him swear that he's going to be chayiv for shvus hapikadim lav? The gamri law for being over the shvus hapikadim lav. The gamri law isn't it because we learn out with exedus shava me'edus? Because we learn out from shvus heidus. By shvus heidus, there it talks about that he was mushba mi piachenim, and just like by shvus heidus, if he's mushba mi piachenim, he's going to be chayiv shvua. So too, by shvus hapikadim, we're going to say if he was mushba b'achenim, he's going to be chayiv shvua. Ushma mina, and if so, we can learn out from here. Shadun mina mina pligi. Rabbeinu holds dumina umina, that we learn out everything, that it can only be in Bezdin. Shalei b'fnei Bezdin, he's not going to be chayiv. But the Chachamim argue and say dumina ukavasa. The Chachamim say no, that we don't learn out all the characteristics of the mucker. Okay, so we see by shvus hapikadim doesn't say that you need the kfira to be in Bezdin, and because of this, everybody agrees shamuzba mipi atzmai is chai b'shvus hapikadim, even if he denied the chutz labezdin. Since we learned out with exedus shava that also shamuzba mipi achedim is chayiv by shvus hapikadim from shvus heidis, the chacham hold that in these halachas we're going to hold like by shvus hapikadim that you chayiv even if he denies outside of Bezdin. Reb Meir argues. He says since we're learning out mushmi piachedim that you chayiv by shvus hapikadim from where? From shvus heidis. So we have to learn out all the details that are that we say by edus for pikadim, and by edus. Muzman piachedim is not going to be chayiv only if the kfira was in Bezdin. So everybody, you're right. Mahi, he meant to say, Papa answers, Mahi, from that Mishnah, Shvus HaPikadim, Ein, you cannot prove that a chum hold doin mina ve'oiki ba'asal. You have no proof. Maha, but from the Mishnah of Shvus HaEdus, he said, I'm sorry, Mahi, from that Mishnah, Shvus HaPikadim, in. But you could prove that the Chachamim say, doin mina ve'oiki ba'asal. From the Mishnah of Shvus HaPikadim, you could learn and prove, like your words, that Chacham hold, Daimin Avel Kibasa. But Meha, from the Mishnah of Shvus HaEdus, like Lamashmalei, you cannot learn out, because you could explain the reasoning of the Chacham in our Mishnah in another way. They don't hold of the Gzeira Shava, rather they learn out the Chiyuv of Muzmin Piyatzmai from Shavous Ha'edus itself with a Kavachema. They're not learning it out from Shavous Ha'pikadon. That's why you can't prove from Shavous Ha'edus itself, because the Muzmin Piyatzmai by Shavous Ha'edus doesn't have to be learned out from with a Gzeira Shava from Shavous Ha'pikadon. Rather, it could be learned out with a Kavachema from Shavous Ha'edus itself. We learned in the Hemshech of the Mishnah, Chayav Yechai B'Karben Al Zdain Hashvua. Yechai B'Karben Yered on Shavous Ha'edus, even when the Aveda was done b'Mezid. In fact, from where do we know this? From the Rabbanon. For the Rabbanon had learned B'Kulam and all other Avedas that Yechai B'Karben Yered Nembahem V'Nelam. It says the Lashon that it was concealed to tell you that you're going to only be Chayiv B'Karben Yered if it was a Shegeg. But Bekam by Shavous Ha'edus le'namba b'Nelam. It doesn't say it was concealed. It doesn't say the lashon Nelam that hinting about a shogeg. So Chai is come to tell you that you're going to be Chai by Shavous Ha'edus al Hamezik is shogeg. That you're going to be Chai by Shavous Ha'edus al Hamezik is shogeg. So too we learn al shogeg on a shogeg of a shvua in Zdain Ha'edus, being amazed in the denial of the Ha'edus, in the lying. You're amazed in the lying of the shvua, but you're shogeg. What does that mean? How could it be in his Zdain Ha'edus? How could it be he's a shogeg, but he was intentionally lying in his testimony? He said, I know at the time that I swore, this shvua that I swore was sheker, asura, that it was asa. But I did not know im chayam ala carbon my life. I didn't know whether you chayv carbon or not. Bein chayam carbon mal shigigasagay asa, and you're not chayv a carbon on b'shegig alone. Ein kishaya edim, the it was shegig gemur, even in the shvua and also in the kvidas ha'edus. So. So let us say this halacha that we learned in the story with Rav Kahana and Rav Asi, there was a shaila. Rav Kahana and Rav Asi were mistapik, and if they're going to be chayiv, they gave a shua. Each one gave a shua as this is what Rav taught them, and at the end Rav told them, there's paskin like it said that this is the way he said, like one of them. Like it was either like Rav Kahana or Rav Asi said what I said right. One of them was wrong. So they were mesupik whether they have to make a shvua. Why would the mesupik? Till Rav had to teach him this halacha. Mefurish in our Mishnah that somebody swears thinking that he's saying emes, he's not considered as a nishba l'sheker. So it's impossible to bring a rai from our Mishnah. Why? Even though we learned this halacha in our Mishnah by Shavous Ha'edus Itzich, we still needed Rav to teach us by Shavous Bitui. So I would have thought only by Shavous Ha'edus like Sidon Nelam. It doesn't say at all the Inyan of Shegeg. The Inyan Shegeg will be amazing. That we need the Shegeg to be similar to amazing. Therefore, the Mishnah patters the aid in such a case of Shgaga Gemara because he thought he's swearing emes. Avol Hasam by Shavous Bitui the Chsibit Nelam, where it says Afilu Shegegasa Koldu, even a little Shegeg. So it's possible that they were a little bit here. It's considered as a little. It's possible to say this that their heart made them think that they were saying the emes is still considered a little bit of a Shegeg. So I would say he's Chayv HaKarban. Kamashwan. That's why Rav had to teach us even by Shavous Bitui. This halacha is applicable. That one who thinks during the shvur that he's saying emes, he's not considered as a nishba l'sheker.